If you love movies and movie discussions, you come to the right place. Who am I, you ask? I am the Wiz, and I'm here to review the 1961 sports drama, The Hustler, starring Paul Newman, George C. Scott, Piper Laurie, and Jackie Gleason, directed by Robert Rossen. So I gotta be honest, I wasn't really entirely interested in watching this movie. The only reason why I was interested is because I wanted to see as many as Martin Scorsese's films as possible. So why am I watching this? Well, the honest truth is, this is actually a prequel to one of Scorsese's films, The Color of Money, which is a sequel to The Hustler, which is what I'm watching today. Let's get into it. Let's get into the review of The Hustler, directed by Robert Rossen. But before that, let's get into the plot. Fast Eddie Felsen, played by Paul Newman, is a pool shark that travels through one city playing room to another, leading him to a potential life-changing showdown with the legendary Minnesota Fats, played by Jackie Gleason. But after losing it all in that showdown, he becomes down and out and broken, where he eventually has a relationship with Sarah, played by Piper Laurie, but then decides to go into business with a seedy businessman named Bert Gordon, played by George C. Scott. I think one of the best things about this movie is the feel of the pool halls. It feels very authentic. You can definitely feel the griminess and the seedy elements in all the pool halls. It really gives that feel very well, and that's because the cinematography is really good. It's a black and white film, but it still feels like it's in this dirty, grungy kind of places that you only go to when you're looking for trouble. And I think that's one of the big highlights of the film, is how the film feels in these pool halls, in these locations, and how it really feels dangerous in a very distinct way. Another thing that I think is really good is the score of this film. It is great. It fits the tone really well with the rest of the film. It has this very slow jazz kind of feel to it that I really vibe with throughout the film. Even when it's not in the pool hall, it still has this very slow, kind of depressing kind of feel to it that just honestly works really well. What I will say is the overall story and themes are good in this film, but it's really the performances that are the real highlight. The film is basically a morality tale about somebody who is a hustler, which is Paul Newman's character, and him building himself back up from losing, but at what cost? And the problem with him is that he doesn't like to quit. I will say the one great performance in this film is George C. Scott. He plays an excellent scumbag in this movie. He plays a businessman that is not a good person at all. He basically makes money screwing people and takes exorbitant rates in order to do what he needs to do. And Eddie just gets involved with him at probably one of the worst times in his life. And Scott plays this character so well. Now, what I will say is the romance between Laurie and Newman isn't great, despite the fact that I think both performances in this film are pretty good. I think Laurie actually is the better performance in this. I think she plays her character very well. She's very sympathetic and rightly damaged in certain ways that you do feel sorry for. And Newman plays the main character good as well. It's just that the romance between the two, I just didn't quite buy. I didn't understand why Laurie's character was interested, other than that she was damaged and saw a damaged person too. But the problem that I would have at the end of the film is whether I would believe Fast Eddie cared so much about his girlfriend at the time and how he felt changed after that. And I didn't quite buy it. I felt like there was a sadness in him, and he might have felt terrible for what he did, but I didn't actually believe the romance element. I also don't think that Fast Eddie's that good of a person, so I don't know if he would have felt that bad, but other than that, I think that these are good performances. But I think the romance overall is the one element that I think is a weakness in this film. I didn't buy the romance, but I don't think it really detracted from the movie, but it was also probably the weakest element of the film. And here are the footnotes for The Hustler. The only thing I can think of is a film like this, but with esports, would be an interesting concept, I think. Yeah, a modern take of this would probably be somebody who played esports really, really well and got into that seedy element. Because I've heard from a number of stories that esports in itself is not great. You get very little money and you do a lot of hours. It's just like a miserable time for the people who are there other than to play their games or whatever. So I think that would be an interesting kind of concept. It would not be a one-to-one to The Hustler. I think it would be something a little bit different, but I think it would be an interesting movie to actually make. So overall, I'm going to recommend The Hustler. I think it's a good movie. I think the performances are the highlights of the film. I think the story is good, but honestly, I think it's more of the visual aspects of the film I think are the best parts of the film. I think the feel of the film, being in locations where it's with a bunch of down-on-your-luck people who are in bad spots or in late-night areas, or in seedy elements, I think is probably one of the best things about this film. You get that real feel of it, this feel of desperation that is evocative throughout the entire film. I think the score is really good in this as well. I think the best performances of the film are George C. Scott. I think he is really good in this movie. I think he's the best part of this film. I think Piper Laurie would be next, then followed by Paul Newman. I think really all the performances are very good. I just didn't really like the romance element, but it's not enough to where it detracts from the film, I think. So overall, I recommend The Hustler. I think it's mostly a for rent for about $4 on most places, so check that out if you are interested.
Now, if you want my full review on this movie, you can go to my website at IamTheWiz.com. You'll have my full written review right on the site, along with a link to the video that has this review that you've just listened to.
All right, so for Thursday, me and Zero are going to be reviewing Gran Turismo, directed by Neil Blomkamp. Saturday, I'll be reviewing Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, directed by Leonard Nimoy. And then in 2 weeks, I'm going to take a week off for the podcast. That's going to be Labor Day, and usually there's not a lot going on Labor Day, so I'm just going to take that week off entirely. So then next Tuesday, which is going to be September 10th, I'm going to be reviewing a movie that I have honestly not been terribly interested in, but I always have heard it's a great movie, and I want to watch movies that remind me of the fall. And I guess this is one of those films that reminds people of that, and that is Moonstruck, directed by Norman Jewison. Yeah, this is a movie that I've heard a lot of people say it's one of their favorite movies. They love sharing it. They love Nicolas Cage. Who doesn't at this point? So I am definitely going to check that out. So on Thursday, me and Zero are going to review Gran Turismo, directed by Neil Blomkamp. Saturday, I'll be reviewing Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, directed by Leonard Nimoy. And on September 10th, on Tuesday, I'll be reviewing Moonstruck, directed by Norman Jewison. I am The Wiz, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.